Now we're going to talk about the fastest way that you've ever seen to line a jacket. And this is a new way to do it. You've never seen this before. And so first of all, I want to show you what a nice looking inside jacket you can make. Here is a sample of a dress that I've made, and all I've done is used a biased edge of the fabric on the inside of the jacket. So let's take a look and see how we're going to do this. And you won't believe how simple this is going to be. I love lined jackets, and I used to try not to line them because it was so much trouble. And when I learned how to do this, I decided, you know, this is everything I have I want lined now because this is so easy. So let's talk about the pattern now. This is the facing of the jacket. And if you're going to use the jacket facing and you've got a shoulder pad, you want to be sure that you take the shoulder pad length out. So you're going to drop the shoulder down about about a fourth of an inch, just a fourth of an inch, and then you're going to extend the facing down 2.5 inches. Now I like to make a wider shoulder line on my patterns for my facings, and the reason I like to do that is because it gives it a little more body on the jacket. It lets it hold your shape of your shoulder better. Even if you don't have a shoulder pad in it, then you have a nice full top on your shoulder line there. And so you're going to also extend it over. If it's not 3 inches, then go ahead and add it to be 3 inches. And the reason is that part will stay under better and it won't be flopping out. And then here's what you'll do in the back. If you extend it down 4 inches on the fold line, then you will have a nice pretty back, and this won't be too low for your shoulders so that it won't be too tight. Okay, so now you're going to use the jacket pattern. If you don't have a lining pattern in the pattern, then you're going to make your own. And if there is a lining pattern in the jacket, it's not going to be the same. So don't use that one, use the base jacket. And the reason is because this part right here is going to be cut out. And you want to have that because it gives you some stability. So now here is the jacket pattern. We're going to do the same thing with the shoulder line that we did with the facing. And we're going to take 1/2 inch off of the bottom hem. Just 1/2 inch, that's all you take away from the hem. And you're going to do the same on the back. And then if you have a fairly fitted jacket where you need a little bit of space, you know how they get a little tight, then go ahead and add 1/4 inch to the center back seam. And the reason that you're going to do that is it's going to end up to be a pleat for you so that when you move your shoulders, you've got the room and the jacket doesn't pull. So then when you get ready, you're going to stitch it down, and I'm going to show you that sample in a second. Now you've got your sleeve lining, and because you took that out in the shoulder line, you're going to need to also take it out in the sleeve. So you're going to fold this down 1/4 inch so that you have that to match your inside jacket lining. Now here is the lining that I've done so that you can see the little sample. And here's the pleat that you're going to end up with. And do you see how I stop? My facing is 4 inches, so I stitch down 4 inches, and then I stop, and then I will stitch up just enough of the hemline so that this will match the bottom of the hem. Because all you really need is this pleat. When you open this up, all you really need is that pleat to go in the center of the jacket. So it won't end up in the top and it won't end up in the bottom, and they'll all match up when you go get ready to put this together. Now we're going to talk about the facings, and this is the same board I just used in the other segment. I want to remind you that anytime you do a facing, you need to interface. That's very important. Be sure and research what interfacing goes with that, because the fabric, because sometimes it will change the hand of the fabric, and you want the fabric to still be nice and supple. So go ahead and do a test on all of your fabrics to make sure that that interfacing works. Now you're going to do this almost the same way you did in that first segment where we were talking about facings in the front. You're going to put the jacket shoulder lines together and also put it together with your jacket so that the two are together. And then again, you've got the same options for nice, easy inside trims. The one thing that you probably don't want to use is a real bulky trim. This right here might be a little bit heavy, but if you were, this is actually a piping. So if you were to do this, you want to go ahead and use a flatter trim on this. Rickrack is great. Again, just even the inside salvage like we did before. Now let's see a couple of jackets that I have that that have some different ways. Here is a jacket that's been serged, and this is just flat serge, just like I did that other segment where you do the edge with a serger and then you flat sew it down. And then here is another jacket, and this jacket has got a very narrow piping, but it just gives a little texture in there. And you know, even if you're the only one that sees that, you're still going to think it's special. And then I also have a jacket. This is actually used Rickrack on the inside. And this Rickrack is very striking. Gives a little bit of a different flavor to this. So let's talk about how I put that Rickrack on. Now we're at the sewing machine, and I want to show you that when you do these edges, that it's just like you did before, but this time I'm going to show you how I turned the edge of that fabric facing. So I'm going to stitch it down, and what I've done is I've moved my needle position over just a little bit so that it will hit right in the center of the Rickrack. And you know, you may say, oh, well, how did she do that? Because the Rickrack doesn't have a straight edge. Well, I'm actually just sewing down the Rickrack, down the center. Okay, now let's see if we can see this where there's a center line down the Rickrack. Now what I'm going to do is turn this down, press it, and then I'm going to top stitch. And you see how neat that looks? That's just a really interesting trim that you might do. And if you were to do this in a bright fabric, just like I did, bright color, just like I did on this jacket, it really stands out. And maybe nobody sees it but you know it is so special. See how pretty that is? And all I did was I took that and put it in between the facing and the jacket. Now I'm going to show you how we're putting this onto the lining now, because this is the secret. This is the secret to where we have made it easy. You know how the original patterns are, where you've got to turn it and you go around this curve, and then the curve doesn't end up to match, and you're fighting the whole way, and you've got lightweight fabric and heavy fabric. And that's another thing that happens. It just gives you all kinds of fits. So let's see how we lay this on. Here is my right side of the lining, and here is the wrong side against it. So both right sides are up. This is the right side on the top and the right side of the lining. So this time I'm not doing right sides to wrong sides or wrong sides. This is different than we did in the earlier segment. So now it's all flat, and you have finished your edge with your trim. And the trim is right there. And so now all you have to do is line up your neckline, which your neckline was, you know, your regular jacket neckline, just like you had. And you're going to line it up, and then you're going to stitch in the ditch or just a little bit of a edge stitch. You can do that. It doesn't matter, whatever you decide. And I've done this in a little bit different color so you can kind of see. But then you're going to just stitch that down flat. And then you're going to stitch it down flat here. Now, I like to do a decorative stitch in between, just a little bit, maybe an inch over. And the reason I do is because I'm going to trim this away, and when I trim it away, it just holds all that fabric down. This has actually become a trademark of my jackets, so that when I make a jacket for somebody, I can actually know that that was my jacket because it's got that special stitch inside. And people really desire that. They think it's neat. It's something just personalized and very, very different, very special. Okay, now let's talk about what happens when we get down to the hemline, because that's very important too. Now we're going to stop. When we're stitching, we need to stop at least 2 inches above the hemline. So don't stitch this all the way down to the bottom, because this is coming up underneath. And then what you're going to do is trim off the inside part. So see how I've trimmed that away? So here is the facing, and here is the lining, and this is just flat, and nothing's going to happen under there. So don't even worry about it. You'll love it. It's great. This works really good. So now let's just see this little miniature jacket. Now that we've got it figured out as far as that goes, and we put our sleeve in just like we do normally. We put our sleeve in, and we put in both the lining and the jacket. So they're all sewn up. And now we're going to put the jacket and the lining together. And you see the decorative stitch? This is the inside of the jacket that I'm showing you. Okay, and this is just a little miniature jacket here, so you can see. Now, one thing that you need to do is, and I didn't say this, I said put together the lining, don't stitch 4 inches in the sleeve. So put the sleeve together at the seams, but leave yourself a turning place in both sleeves. That's very, very important, because this is going to make you the cleanest looking jacket on the inside. Nobody's going to know how you turned it. That's what's neat. I always go in these stores and I think, now how did they turn that jacket? And I'll start picking at it, and I found out that they're pulling it in through the sleeve, believe it or not. So it's kind of fun to know what they're doing inside there. So now we've got, we put the stitch around the neckline, so we're going to go all the way around the neck, and we're going to line this up just like we did. And I want you to see this side right here so you can see how I did this. I stitched the facing to the end, and here is, let me get it on the blue, here is the hemline. So the facing is shorter, and then here's the hemline extending. Now remember that we took away a ½ inch from our lining. And so here is, right here is where you're going to find that is going to work. You're going to stitch this bottom together, and this is actually going to come up on its own. And that's all you need, is just that little bit to come up. And then what you're going to do when you get ready to turn it, you're going to leave this opening right here in the bottom. So now let's just talk about this. We're leaving an opening in the sleeve, 4 inches. The 4 inches is going to be for turning in the sleeve, and the bottom part of the jacket is going to be turning with the bottom opening. Okay, so now I have a jacket that I've made here, and I haven't finished it, so you can see, but here is a jacket that I've gotten this far. Collar's on, facing is on, and look at this here, what I used. Here again is, it's a salvage. I love to use the salvage of the jackets fabrics. These heavier fabrics have the neatest salvage, so it just looks like a little piece of fringe there. So now here we go. We're going to turn this jacket. Now watch what I'm going to do I'm going to actually turn the entire jacket right side out through the hem. Okay, and then I'm going to make sure that I have my sleeve together at the bottom. Now here is a pin, and I want to be sure that the pin is in the sleeve right here so that it holds the two seams together. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, this is real interesting, I'm going to take this jacket and pull it from the sleeve. I put my arm through the sleeve. I'm going to actually pull the bottom of the jacket back through the sleeve. And you know that little opening that I had? Here's the opening. I'm going to go to the sewing machine now and I'm going to stitch it up. And there it is. It's nice and open and easy to get to. It's just fine. You can get it. Okay, so then that's all sewn up. Now I'm going to push that back in. So now my bottom is all nice and finished. Nobody knows where I turned it. Okay, then I'm going to go into the sleeve, and yes, this has to be turned, and this is a little bit more complicated, but I'm going to turn this to the right side, okay? And here's my pin right here. And I'm going to come around and I'm going to stitch this down a little bit at a time, walking the lining around the edge of the sleeve. And so what I end up with is there's the sleeve turned up and turned, and then I'm going to end up with, at the bottom of all of the hems, I'm going to just whip stitch right inside. Just right here, just whip stitch it to the jacket. Or you can, if the fabric's nice and heavy, you can just stitch in the ditch right here and then just tack maybe 2 or 3 places and it'll stay in place. I know it'll stay in place because it's heavier in these jacket fabrics. And so that is the way that you can turn a jacket the easy way. You know what? The neat thing about making your own clothes is having special things that you can do to them. Even if it's on the inside, it's just kind of neat to know that you got something that nobody else has. I have thoroughly enjoyed sharing this with you, and I hope that I have inspired you to sew something. Thank you.